You know, the stock market is the most common way that anyone can build wealth, so if you want to get rich, you need to understand how it works. Unfortunately, though, it feels like every explanation out there just makes the whole thing more confusing than it needs to be. So by the end of this video, you'll understand in simple terms how the stock market really works and how you can use it to get rich. Welcome to ALUX. So to understand how the stock market works today, first we have to understand why it was created in the first place. The stock market began as a very simple solution to a very old problem: how to build something massive when you don't have enough money to do it alone. You see, back in the 1600s, Europeans had just discovered the Americas, and the economy was exploding with exploration and trade. But just imagine being an entrepreneur at that time, okay? You had to build the ships, you had to hire sailors, you had to train them and feed them, and once they were ready for the job, a single voyage could take years, and every day was a risk. One bad storm, one run-in with pirates could destroy everything. The point is, sending ships halfway around the world and back wasn't cheap, and it was extremely risky. So the smartest merchants at the time came up with a new idea. What if instead of one person paying for an entire ship and crew, you could pool money from many people to fund it together? Each investor would only own a small share of the journey, which meant that if the journey failed, they would lose a little bit of money, but if the ship made it back safely, they would share the profits. That idea became the foundation for the first corporations, companies with a lot of mostly private investors. But eventually, it led to the first stock market. In the year 1602, the Dutch East India Company was founded. It was one of the first businesses in history to issue shares to the public, meaning that anyone with money could buy a piece of the company and profit from its success. Then, if they wanted to, they could also sell their shares to anyone else at any time. So, if you were expecting a ship to come back by, say, Christmas, but you had a gut feeling that the crew had gotten attacked by pirates or something, you could sell your piece of the business to someone willing to take that risk. And, I mean, just think about what's happening here, okay? Now you could participate in a business when you wanted to, spread your risk so you didn't go bankrupt overnight, and get your money back when you wanted to. It was a massive financial innovation, but not just for investors. Stock markets also let companies raise money faster and take bigger risks, which meant entire economies began growing beyond their previous limits. Over time, other countries copied this model. Stock markets began appearing in London, Paris, New York, Tokyo, Hong Kong, pretty much every country with a big international city. And as the world economy evolved, people began investing in railroads, factories, and new industries like fashion and tech. The stock market became the beating heart of capitalism itself, and to this day, it still is. Now, before we get into how modern stock markets work, look, by watching this video, you're educating yourself, which means you're already the kind of person who's trying to build a better future. And that's exactly what we're all about here at ALUX, but let's be honest, okay? Watching videos and consuming information will only take you so far. At some point, you have to turn knowledge into action. And that's why we built the ALUX app, to help you get clear about what you actually want, build a plan to get there, and take consistent action toward it every single day. Inside the ALUX app, you'll find tools and lessons designed to help you set specific goals, track your progress, and stay disciplined. Not just in money, but also in your health, your mindset, your career, even your relationships. We've had literally hundreds of thousands of people use our app, and we can see the data, okay? If you dedicate just 10 minutes a day to this, your life starts changing dramatically fast. If you're a founder, CEO, an entrepreneur, or someone with big dreams for yourself, we know you're gonna love this, okay? You can download the ALUX app for free by going to alux.com/app, and if you come back and scan this QR code on screen, you'll get 25% off your yearly plan to access everything we've got to offer. Look, my friend, the stock market will rise and it'll fall, but the best investment you will ever make is the one you make in yourself, okay? So stop learning about success and start building it for yourself. But with that said, let's get back to today's discussion, shall we? All right, so how do stock markets today work? Well, let's look at it from the ground up. At its core, a stock, or more accurately, a share, is nothing more than a small piece of ownership in a company. You see, if you were to start a company yourself, you would own 100% of the shares, and you would keep 100% of the profit. If you were to start a company with 3 of your friends, each of you would own 25% of the company and 25% of the profits. But let's look at a company like Apple. When they were first starting, it was just Steve Jobs and his buddies building computers in a garage. They owned everything and they made all of the money. But eventually, some investors caught wind that their computers were pretty good and this business had potential. So they came to Steve and his friends and basically said, "Hey, you guys need money to take this business to the next level, and I have money. And I'll give it to you if you give me some shares in your company." And they said, "Sure." So those investors also became owners of the company. But here's the thing, okay, back then, Apple was still a private company. You could only buy shares if you got the founders themselves to sell them to you. Today, it's different. Apple is a public company, which means anybody can buy its shares, including you. When you buy a share of Apple stock today, you're buying a tiny slice of ownership in the business, just like the first investor, except instead of getting 10 or 20% of the company, you get something closer to 0.00000000671%. Now, the reason why companies like Apple open up their shares so the general public can buy and sell them is that it lets them raise money. Imagine a business that wants to sell a new factory, hire more employees, or develop a new product. Instead of taking on debt, it can set aside a portion of its shares to sell to investors, and in return, those investors provide the capital the company needs to fund its next stage of growth. This process is called going public, and it's how companies list their shares on a stock exchange for anyone to buy. Now, remember, it's called a stock exchange for a reason. When you own shares in a public company, you can buy them or sell them at any time, but as a buyer or as a seller, how do you know how much they're actually worth? Well, here's where things get kinda tricky, but it's probably the most important thing you have to understand if you want to know how wealth is built with stocks, so pay attention. You see, the price of a company's stock isn't decided by the company itself. It's decided by the two fundamental forces of anything to do with economics: supply and demand. Think of it like this, okay? The number of shares of a company that's available for people to buy represents the supply. The desire of investors to own them, which ultimately comes down to a dollar amount, represents the demand. The thing is, the supply of shares available is constantly going up and down as people decide to hold or not hold their shares. And the demand, well, it's doing the same thing. So these forces are constantly pushing against each other, setting prices in real time. If more people want to buy than sell, well, the price rises. If more people want to sell than buy, well, it falls. And you know, it's a weird concept, really, because it means that a company's stock price doesn't only reflect how profitable a company actually is, but also how people feel about it. It's a living, breathing marketplace of expectations. Honestly, it's pretty fascinating. But this is also what makes the stock market so unpredictable. It takes into account all of the fear, the optimism, the greed, and the panic, and it turns it into a single number that you can see on a trading screen going up and down as investors try to predict the future. The crazy thing is, it often works pretty well. Take Amazon, for example. The company went public back in 1997, but it lost money every year until 2003. Uber went public in 2019, but it lost money every year until 2023. Tesla went public in 2010, but it was only profitable in 2020. That is 10 straight years of losing money. And yet, look at these companies now, okay? Thanks to all of the investors who believed they would become profitable one day, they've now become hugely successful. Now, what's fascinating about the stock market is that even if you've never bought a single share in your life, it still affects you every single day. When the market rises, companies hire more people and invest in new technologies. When it falls, people lose their jobs and entire economies slow down. If you've got a retirement plan, a pension fund, even a savings account, chances are part of that money is invested in the stock market. Without it, the phone or TV you're watching this video on, the car you drive, the food you eat, and the job you work at probably wouldn't exist. Those companies need billions of dollars to turn their ideas into reality. No single person or bank could have funded that alone. But millions of investors could, and did, thanks to the stock market. In many ways, it's been the engine of capitalism. And yeah, it might not be perfect. There are bubbles and market crashes and recessions. But the stock market is humanity's most powerful mechanism for doing together what we could never hope to do alone. And honestly, it's hard to imagine the modern world without it. So, now that you know how the stock market actually works, let's look at how you get rich from it, because at the end of the day, that's probably what you care about the most, right? The truth is, there isn't a single formula to get rich from the stock market. Instead, it's more like a game. Everybody plays by the same rules, but with wildly different strategies, but there are basically three main ways to make money from it. First of all, you have your shareholders. These are people who buy stocks because they want to own a piece of a good company that makes good money now. It's plain and simple. They make money by participating in the company's profits. But then you've got your investors. These are people who know they can make money by buying stocks when they're cheap and selling them when they're more expensive. Basically, if the stock market is a living, breathing marketplace of expectations, they're trying to predict what people will expect in the future. Now, obviously, there are different levels to this. In terms of money, on the low end of the spectrum, you've got your cousin who buys a little bit of S&P 500 every time he gets his paycheck, and on the high end, you've got hedge funds, pension funds, and investment banks that move billions of dollars at a time. So in terms of time, you've got everything from day traders who buy and sell the same stock 47 times a day, and people like Warren Buffett, who bought Coca-Cola stock back in 1988 and has never sold a single share to this day. And finally, you've got your founders, who are a strange mix between shareholders and investors. These guys usually started their company, right? They own a huge chunk of shares, so just like a shareholder, they profit when the company profits. And just like an investor, they're hoping the stock price goes up because they own a big chunk of it, except they've been holding these shares since the company was technically worthless. Now, what's cool about being a founder is that unlike shareholders or investors, they're the ones in control of the business. So every decision they make has the potential to make the company more profitable and also more valuable. Now, obviously, being in the trenches building a company is a lot more work than day trading from your laptop, but founders typically own so much of their companies that one successful new product or one good decision can make them billionaires. So yeah, okay, if you can build a successful company from the ground up, it is worth it. And fundamentally, those are the main ways you can make money from the stock market. You can be the person who owns a small piece of great companies, you learn to spot opportunity before everybody else, or you can build the next company the world invests in. At the end of the day, the stock market is just a mirror. It reflects how much you believe in the future you're helping to create. If you want to be a part of that too, you just have to pick a strategy and start. All right, now thankfully, you understand the game. Alrighty, Alexer, thanks for spending some time with us. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and remember you can get 25% off the Alux app today if you go to alux.com/app and come back and scan this QR code on screen after downloading. With that said, my friend, take care. I'll see you back here next time.